Hello, folks. Thanks for showing up and sharing with us this Monday evening, Mondays with Mooch soiree that we've been putting on. I really appreciate you guys coming around and checking it out and sharing the event with us. For those of you who may not know, the Jazz Arts Project is a nonprofit organization dedicated to honor jazz. And we've been doing this for over 14 years. And we plan on continuing to do it. So we hope to see you actually in person um, soon, sooner or later, for that matter. But for now, we have some of these virtual meetings that hopefully you guys are enjoying. It's certainly a blast putting it together for us. So for tonight, perhaps there's nobody better to talk about the history of the Hammond B3 organ than Radam Schwartz. Radam has performed worldwide jazz festivals, clubs, concerts, even at our own events at the Jazz Arts Project. His recording organized, air quotes, organized, get it, on Muse Records, is listed in the Hammond Organ Bible as one of the top 200 essential organ recordings of all time. He has a reputation that spans more than 40 years. He's performed with such heavy hitters as Arthur and Red Prysock, Eddie Lockjaw Davis, Al Hibbler, David Fathead Newman, Jimmy Ford, Tommy Grice, Cecil Brooks III, who has also graced us on our Jazz Arts Project stages, I have to say. Radam's won awards from CSAC for jazz composition. He's been honored and mentioned in the Downbeat magazine Critics Poll repeatedly over many years. He's also a dedicated jazz educator and mentor to countless young musicians over 3 decades. He was music director at the Jazz Institute of New Jersey for more than 20 years, may have been one of the first programs in New Jersey dedicated to jazz and jazz improvisation, I believe. We'll talk about that. He's been an artist in residence at Middlesex County Arts Program for 25 years, and an instructor at various programs and jazz camps throughout the state, including, of course, our own Jazz Arts Academy. He's also the director of the Rutgers Newark Mosaic Jazz Ensemble. In 2012, Radam obtained a master's degree from Rutgers Newark Jazz Research and History Department, directed by Dr. Lewis Porter. He's currently working on turning several aspects of his thesis into books. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Radam Schwartz. Thunderous applause.
Thank you very much.
Where'd he go?
Me?
How are you, Radam?
Doing good, Jim. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. As good as it can be expected.
Right.
Right. Talking to the mic.
That's the answer nowadays.
Exactly. We talked about this a little bit before, but you know, it's rough going for musicians out there.
Like
But-
I was telling you before, the week before March 15th, I had a gig canceled on Monday, but I had a gig that was on Thursday. I had a gig canceled on Friday and Saturday. I played at the Blue Note Sunday, and that was my last gig, March 15th.
The Ides of March.
Yes, the Ides of March.
There will be more coming, I assure you. In fact, we talked about some ideas we have going on. I see this this beautiful organ you're sitting in front of. We can't exactly see that. There it is. Look at that. So we planned this as a history of the Hammond B3 organ, and you know your master's is based on that history essentially.
Yes,
And
I got a master's, and in fact, it's online, and I've been surprised at how many people have used it as a reference in their own academic projects, because there is just so little written about jazz organ in the academic branches, either performance or in terms of musicology, and mine is one of the few. So I guess people just go and they when they want to do any type of research on jazz organ, they mine is one that keeps, if they Google it, it comes up.
I bet they don't send a check though.
Unfortunately not, but you give them my Venmo number and they might reconsider.
There you go. We'll get to that for
All
sure.
right. So yes,
Um,
yes. So I did. So my basic, the thesis is in 5 parts. It's one part is the history of jazz. That takes up about 25 pages. Then there's an analysis of what makes jazz unique, jazz organ unique, because it has its own unique qualities that are somewhat different. And then the third is part of it is trying to understand why jazz organ has been excluded from jazz history and jazz academia. In other words, if you go to the Institute of Jazz Studies, you can hardly find anything on jazz organ. And then the fourth part is the part I'm really working on, which is called blues analysis, which is taking jazz and going back to finding certain theoretical things that happen in blues and then showing how they occur in jazz. And then the fifth one I always say is really called How I Can Get a Gig, because it's solutions, and every solution ends with get a jazz program and hire me. So those are the 5 parts of my thesis.
how's that working out for you?
Uh, well,
At least before March. So, you want to talk a little bit about? I mean, how did it come about that jazz musicians started using the organ in the first
okay,
place?
well, let me just give a short 2 or 3 minute talk about the organ.
Even better.
Okay, so Lawrence Hammond had an idea. He was supposedly tone deaf, and he had this idea of having this different type of organ. Up until then, there were organs like theater organs, but there were certain traits about the organ. For example, the bass always had a sound that went boing, 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 boing on theater organs. And since in 1929, we were in the middle of the swing era, and he was thinking, how am I going to get an organ that can play in roller rinks? Because that's the music that people wanted to listen to when they were roller skating. Many people think he was trying to get a substitute for several churches, a portable organ, but there were already portable organs that were being used in mostly white churches. But the thing about it was he had a plan that he was going to use this organ for roller rinks and churches. And what happened is he developed a bass in there that didn't go boing boing, but that you could actually walk a bass line with. And then there were other aspects of it as well. And then this company called Leslie came up with the speaker. The Leslie Corporation and the Hammond Corporation had a very acrimonious relationship, because Hammond had a speaker, but they didn't want that speaker to not people to buy the organ without the speaker, but everybody wanted this Leslie thing. So that happened about 1939. And that's where it really started to pick up with them getting sales in churches. And really, it came on the jazz scene and into the black church in the late 40s. It's happened almost simultaneously. And so the black church started using the Hammond organ, and in many of the jazz clubs, they started using Hammond organ. Especially, you might want to consider that one of the main places where the Hammond organ got started was on the Jersey Shore. Philadelphia and the Jersey Shore were two of the first spots that really started having Hammond organ in the jazz clubs. So that was how it basically occurred. And then in 1955, there was a very big scene in Philadelphia and Atlantic City. There were 3 organ clubs in Atlantic City: Gracie's Little Belmont, Club Harlem, and the Winter Garden. And Jimmy Smith came and played in Small's Paradise. Small's Paradise was already an organ club, but he got signed to Blue Note. And within a year, just about every club in the East Coast that was a black venue, 80%, let's say, turned over to organ. Even Count Basie's club, which was a piano club, bought an organ. Every
Was
club.
this yet a B3?
What?
This wasn't yet quite the B3 though, right?
Well, no. Well, this was the B2 at that time. See, so in 1930, like a lot of people think Fats Waller was the original organist, but the timeline doesn't really fit because he did one tune on a Hammond A100, which has a speaker underneath it. That was the Jitterbug Waltz. That was the only time he used the Hammond organ. You know, so the bottom line is it really came in the late 40s when you could pair it with a Leslie organ, with a Leslie speaker, the Hammond organ, the Leslie speaker. And it wasn't until the 60s that those two companies merged into one company. So,
well, that's played it in the theaters, though.
well, the theater organs go back. Fats Waller played in the theater organs, but he did not play a Hammond organ in there.
Right.
And the quality that the Hammond organ had that was so appealing, first you have a bass that really appeals to this. You know, back in 1939, most bass players were playing through an acoustic bass and using a microphone and putting it in the bridge of the bass. They didn't even have pickups and amplifiers. But you bring this organ in here, and it has a bass that is just so present, and it had a great deal of appeal, especially, you know, to the black audiences who wanted to hear, that rhythm.
Why don't you play a little something for us?
Okay, all right. So as you can see, I have these drawbars. These drawbars set the sound, and there's certain sounds that I get from there. So.
That was beautiful. How about that? Everybody applauds. It was almost like a live show, isn't it?
Felt good.
Almost.
I could feel the audience.
Good.
That's good. That's important.
Very cool. It sounds great.
Thank you. That was the tune, by the way, called Johnny Come Lately, written by Billy Strayhorn, but made famous by the famous organist from Camden, Jersey, Wild Bill Davis, pre-Jimmy Smith organist. We worked the Jersey Shore, and he worked Philadelphia, and supposedly Jimmy Smith modeled his playing initially after Wild Bill
Is that
Davis.
is that the cut you wanted to play?
But no, the one that I picked has is another Wild Bill Davis cut.
Why don't we play that?
Okay, yeah. Now let me just preface it by saying that the pre Jimmy Smith organists were very cognizant of the instrumental aspect, the orchestration part of it. So Jimmy Smith was really the first one to really deal with linear lines, but you'll hear how orchestrated that Wild Bill Davis plays, and of course he has one of the great swing players, Buddy Tate, playing with him. Okay.
You have it up, Ben? A little more volume, Ben.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah.
that's the blues right there. All right.
Doesn't get better than that.
No,
Definitely all right.
you could hear so. I mean, to me, that's this that has so much blues in it. That's what I'm talking about. Taking those elements of the blues and you hear it, in jazz. In a jazz thing. Of course, it's a 12 bar, slow 12 bar blues.
We have somebody posted a comment in our chat room. Kay, where are you, Kay? Uh, there you are. Do you want to talk about it yourself? Let me see if I can unmute you here. Did we lose her? Him, her? Kay.
Can't hear her. I think she's talking, maybe.
She she was muted.
Hi,
Oh, hi there.
how are you?
I'm good. You made an interesting comment.
I did, but I'd have to go get Kurt to speak about it. Alexander's grandfather was in the orchestra that I listed there, and he composed music and also played piano. But I'll grab Kurt in a little while and bring him on so that he can speak. I don't want to give any false information, but what I typed was true.
Okay. Well, apparently it involves a Leslie speaker
It does,
in the
right?
attic.
That's the speaker that.
Oh, they have a Leslie speaker in the attic?
Not in the attic, but yes, we have it around, and it's from his grandfather.
Okay.
When he played at the Meadowbrook
Okay.
in Jersey.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the original Leslie speakers were called Tall Boys. They were real big, and they had and then it got condensed into the 122s and the 140, 141, and those are the ones that we use most often. I don't know how old it is. This one, I have two Leslies in my house. One is a 120, which means it preceded the 120 because the speaker has different speeds that it twirls at.
Right.
So most have three speeds: no speed, slow speed, and fast speed.
Explain that twirl. A lot of people don't know what is
I'm
inside
going to
of
play
it.
a note. That's on the slow speed. Now you see, now it's on the fast speed. Now I cut it down and I get the slow speed. Now, if you listen to a gospel player, they continually are switching between the fast speed and the slow speed. So they might go.
It's kind of like vibrato.
The slow speed and the fast speed.
But explain because people maybe not understand that it's actually horns in there revolving
There
around,
are horns.
right?
There's a what they call a woofer and a tweeter. The tweeter is the high speed. It's on top. It's a horn, and it goes slow. You can turn it off completely, or you make it go slow, or you can make it go fast. And when it goes fast, the intensity of the sound is there. And now I'm going to cut it down, and it flattens out the sounds.
Right.
So we're always dealing with trying to get different sounds from this organ because it's an orchestra. So we make the speed go fast, we make it go slow. Sometimes we can. Now it's fast. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of different sounds from turning this fast and slow and then messing with the drawbars.
Of course, it's better and more discernible in person, folks. So when you hear it live, it's a whole nother experience for sure.
Oh, yes.
I have to say that when I was in high school playing in a blues band, one of the things I hated was that we all had to chip in and carry this thing. We had to carry the organ, we had to carry the Leslie speaker, and the amps and the sound system. That was the way. And I was a trumpet player. All I had to do was carry a little case, but I had to. They made me.
One of my students one of my students, Anthony Nelson, former students, was when I was in Cecil's band. He used to play in Cecil's band often, and he was the youngest cat, so I always relied on him to move the organ. And one day he said to me, he said, "I know I owe you a lot. I know you taught me a lot, and whatever. But when do I get absolved from helping you move the organ?" And I said to him, "When I die."
There you go.
Get absolved. So.
And by the way, he mentioned Anthony Nelson. Anthony has also been an artist that we've had on our shows, and as well mentoring our Jazz Arts Academy students. So it sort of like shows the multi-generational impact that Radam has had through his teaching.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm like on my 4th or 5th generation, I guess now, at least, of kids that I've taught and mentored and stuff like that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's interesting to see where the kids that you started off as a toddler almost, or certainly very young.
Yes.
Come around and now sometimes they're still playing and doing great, and now we're going to them for gigs rather than the other way around.
I was always flipped out when my students learned how to drive, when they got their driver's license. That always was a big thing. Oh Lord, they're growing up. So,
yeah, exactly.
Now they're in. I have students in their mid-40s, and stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
So look who's behind me.
Oh yes.
Should we play that reference?
Yeah. Can I set it up?
Sure, of course.
Okay. So I told you one of my things was, why is there no mention of jazz organ in the history of jazz? Like, you can read an anthology. One of the things when I lecture on jazz organ is I bring these anthologies in about this high, and I say, in total, there's maybe 4 pages on organ jazz, and I have 10 books. Maybe there's like 8 paragraphs in these 10 anthologies on organ jazz. And the funny thing is, everybody who was on the scene played with organ. It's just like, so this person who we don't assume ever played with organ actually made a record with organ that wasn't released. It was a live record with Milt Buckner, and 2 of the cuts somehow or another surfaced. And it was a live record from Birdland. I think you can hear it. Symphony Sid at the beginning, making the announcements. So I'm sure everybody will know when they hear it.
Since Dizzy and I both are working here on 52nd Street and Broadway between 52nd and 53rd, places right next door to one another, maybe we'd play a tune that was first devised by the 2 of us years ago.
Oh, I think I know which one you mean.
Which one?
Groovin' High?
High, that's right.
Okay, let's go. And with the Milt Buckner Trio.
Yeah. Hot
So,
dog.
you know, it would have been like Coleman Hawkins. Nobody associates him with playing organ, but probably half of his gigs in the 50s and 60s were organ gigs. His piano player was a converted to learning how to play organ. His name was Joe Knight, and if they played in a black venue, the likelihood it was an organ club, and he played organ, and they'd hire guitarists and the drummer. And if it was a white-owned club, he'd probably be playing piano, and then he'd hire a bass player and a drummer. And Joe Knight could do both. And many of the black pianists learned how to play organ in the late 40s, and then, you know, it was off to the races, you know, in terms of that. So, like, for example, in Newark, the first person who even showed me anything about organ was Duke Anderson. Duke Anderson's like an icon in Newark. He's a great piano player, arranger, but he also he wanted to play the organ rooms too, because there were gigs there. So he learned how to play Hammond organ, and he played like Wild Bill Davis. You know, so.
You know, I noticed there's somebody here I'd like to acknowledge and invite to the conversation. Mr. David Gibson, one of my favorite drummers.
Hey, everybody, how you doing?
How are you, Dave?
I'm good. Sorry I'm late.
Is that Dizzy and Jimmy Heath behind you, man?
Yeah. That's Jimmy
cool.
and Dizzy. Yes, Diz and Jimmy Heath, yep.
I miss you, Dave.
Yeah, I miss you too, Joe. Miss playing with you, man.
I know. We gotta get it together. We'll do some sooner or later.
Hey, Radam, how you doing, man?
All right, Dave. How are you?
I'm good, man.
I just spoke to Dave this morning because Dave and I are producing a record that's a unique record that uses a big band with organ. Now there are organ records that have big band, but they always had a bass player. They never had the authentic organ rhythm section. Even, you know, all the Jimmy Smith's records with Oliver Nelson had a bass player, and Rhoda Scott with Thad Jones and Mel Lewis, they had a bass player. And the one record that really I loved the most was Gerald Wilson and Groove Holmes. Two of the tracks he played the organ bass, but the rest had a bass player. So we're actually we have a record that's in production now that uses the authentic organ rhythm section with a big band.
So who's the bass player you fired?
We didn't fire any bass player. We hired a guitarist.
Oh, there you go.
That's my answer. Whenever the bass players used to say that, and that was my answer to them. I didn't fire any bass player. I hired a guitarist.
There you go.
There you go. Did you record it already?
Yes. Oh, yeah. In fact, we got this right under the quarantine deadline. We recorded in early February.
Oh, wow.
And then we mixed it the week right before everything closed.
Right, week before the shutdown.
Yeah, before everything shut down. And then, you know, and now it's coming out on Arabesque Records.
I don't suppose you have a clip of it.
Well, I'm not supposed to play it for anybody right now. But I hope it piques someone's interest. But I'll tell you, so, you know, originally I had this idea. Anyhow, Dave, I don't want to talk too much because I know you have a question or you want to make a statement. But I'll just tell you this little story. So there's a tenor player named Abel Morales. He has a band called the Jazz Exchange Band. And I was talking to him about my desire to do a project that had organ jazz with a big band. And we did a gig. And afterwards I said, yeah, it was good. It was a good possibility. But I got to get an organ drummer. I got to get an organ drummer on the date. And Dave is someone who has experience playing with organ and playing with big band. I said, I got to get Dave Gibson on this gig. You know,
he's the man.
To make it really happen. And most of the people who've heard this record so far, you know, say like we got a ridiculous groove happening. You know, because and we've worked together in Bill Saxton's organ band for many years now, you know, and so anyhow, Dave, go ahead.
Well, did you explain to the people the importance of having a drummer playing with the organ? You know, like I mean, there are a lot of drummers that can play, and but a lot of them are not really familiar with playing with the organ. Because like for me, when I started playing with organ, I was just doing a gig, man. I didn't really realize that that there was a special way to play with organ until later on, as I got more experience playing with organ. Because I worked with Jimmy McGriff for a couple of years, and he used to always be on me about that cymbal ride.
Well, like Dave and I talk all the time, about this. And I said, there's three types of drummers. There's organ drummers, then there's drummers who sound okay with organ, and then there's drummers who they could be great drummers, but just don't sound good with organ. They just don't make the grade for playing with organ. So what Jimmy McGriff told Dave about the ride cymbal connects with the bass. So that's the essential thing. And if you can't feel the quarter note, you're not swinging. You're not hooking up together. We don't have anything happening. It's what you do from that vantage point with the quarter note, and then everything else, interaction and stuff, comes after that. But we got to get the groove happening first. The groove, and when you think about the rooms that organ came out of, the black jazz venues that it came out of, you think about how important it is for a black audience to feel that groove. Who is that? Is that me or?
No, well said.
Okay.
It's very prescient, you two. We happen to have our academy student, Ben, who has been helping us with posting the videos that we've been watching, is a drummer, and on to great things. In fact, he's doing the Berklee College of Music summer program this summer. But
Online,
he's online right now. He's been with us for a while. So Dave and Radam, you know him. You've had him in your class. Sure.
Ben Fig.
Ben Fig.
Yeah, I see him here.
Yeah.
I don't see his. I don't see his image. I don't see his face.
Come on, show your face, Ben. And in fact, I think Dave, you've met him.
I might have met him.
Dave, you met him at the picnic.
Right.
At the picnic,
right.
We went
He's
to
a good
Joe's
drummer.
picnic.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's a very good drummer. I remember you now. You was playing right.
He's probably got a haircut since then.
Yeah, I'm see where did he go?
I don't know. There he goes. Anyway,
Yeah. Okay, yeah,
So-
I remember you, Ben. You sound really good, man, at the picnic. Yeah, killing.
So, Radam, why don't we give information about you and your website and your and how, like you said, this record's coming out. Maybe people would like to order it, and how can they do that?
So the record isn't out yet, but it will start probably being put online in mid-July, early August, and this record is on Arabesque Records, and it's going to be called Message from GW, from Groove and GW.
Right.
Richard Groove Holmes and Gerald Wilson, the arranger and the organist on that record that I was very influenced by. So that's the name of the record, and we got 10 cuts. I think it's an interesting record, and it's a fun record too.
But so if they go to your website, they can look for
not on.
at what time? At what point?
Go there. Wait a couple of weeks, and then you can go to my website and see it. But it's not.
Meanwhile, no doubt. Meanwhile, there must be other CDs available as well, right?
Yes. I got most of my CDs that I'm the leader on. I've been the leader on 7 CDs now, and a co-leader on 2. I've been on about 40 CDs as a sideman. So, but this one I'm especially looking forward to because I think it's unique and it's good music.
Didn't you do a spot with me on one of my CDs?
I am on one of your CDs. I'm on the Joe Piscopo CD.
There you go. That's it. You did
Frank Sinatra.
That's right. There you go. Don't remind me.
In fact, you're supposed
Sorry.
to send me a picture of me, Bruce, and Joe Piscopo. That's
There
about
you go.
5 years ago. I asked you for that picture.
Do you still have that picture?
No, I asked you to send it to me.
Oh, do I have one?
I don't know. I thought you said you might.
Oh, okay. I'll
I
have to
don't
go
know.
look.
But if you ever find it, send it to me.
All right. In any case, folks, www.radamschwartz.com. Jacqueline has put it up in the chat window over here, so you can check that out. And there's also you could donate to his virtual chip bar on Venmo at Radam Schwartz, as it says there. The information's in the chat bar. But if you bear with me for a minute, we should probably do our own commercial as well for the Jazz Arts Project. We are a non-profit organization, folks, and we're struggling like everyone else to essentially keep the lights on, so that we can bring you more and more content and keep the academy rolling like this. So I'd just like to introduce our development director, Carmen Ballantine, to say a few words. Carmen?
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is a great show. I love your background there, Joe. And if you can notice there, I tried to do a background myself. It says Jazz Arts Academy. The proceeds, the donations that you contribute help us put on this great programming that we've been doing every week. And, this programming currently has been a courtesy of Jazz Arts Project. So we've wanted to support people while they're in quarantine. So we hope you've gotten a lot of joy from this. We've had some great performers. Radam, I have to say that you took me back to church with that organ. Thank you very much. That's a very familiar sound with me. So I had a great time listening to that. So again, also I just wanted to show out the Jazz Arts Academy because we have our graduates are going to be coming up soon. Their graduation is happening in the next next week or two. So we've got graduates from the Jazz Arts Academy, and we're also going to be planning some events hopefully coming up soon. As you know, things are starting to open up a little bit. So we will be keeping you informed about that. So check out in your chat room, jazzartsproject.org/donate. We would appreciate your contribution.
Thanks so much, Carmen. I thought it was /give. Am I out of date? Did something change? Or do they both work?
Mine is from the website, so I hope going to the website, that should work.
Okay. Hopefully it works. Listen, I have to thank people because I know there are people here that have already donated through that online, and I really appreciate it, and we'll get around to sending acknowledgments and things as soon as we can. But it helps out tremendously. And as Carmen mentioned, next Monday, is our graduation night. We are going to honor the 5. Is it, Ben? 4 or 5? I keep losing track.
I think it's 6 in total.
Oh, 6. Pardon me. It's 6 graduating seniors that have been with us for quite a while and are incredibly talented and learned a whole lot in the program. And they're all going on, as it turns out, to some sort of music program, whether it's as a minor or a major in some cases. So we are going to honor them next week. We're going to have them all with us. Hopefully we'll get them to talk a little bit, and we're going to play a recording that they've been working on. So that's going to be interesting. They're putting together a recording that we can play next week. So next Monday at 7 p.m. will be our graduation exercises. Now back to Radam. Do we have any questions maybe for Radam at this point?
I have a question. Joe?
Yes.
Stephen, go ahead. Do you want to ask your question?
Oh, sure. Thank you. Radam, I had my first live experience with a Hammond organ in 1960 in Peoria.
Okay.
In a blues club.
Okay.
And of course, I fell in love with that instrument. Is what you're playing today the same instrument that I heard 60 years ago?
Well, I wasn't there in 1960, so I couldn't tell you exactly, but I will tell you this, that like in the 60s, the Hammond organ became a staple of a whole bunch of rock groups, you know, like Jethro Tull and Santana, and, you know, of course, all the groups like Aretha Franklin that coming out of the black church used that, and John Mayall. So all those groups used Hammond organs. This is pre-synthesizer time. And this was Joe Cocker, you know, those type of groups all were using Hammond organ. So it's pretty likely that it was a B3 or a C3 with a Leslie cabinet. Now, the one thing about those bands is most of them use bass players. So it was like, and sometimes in the black churches, they use a bass player with the Hammond organ. I like the Hammond organs players who also play the bass line. But but that probably is what you heard. The likelihood is that's what you heard in Peoria, Illinois.
Steve, we will always have Peoria.
Indeed, we will.
but I think maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but were you asking whether that was the very same instrument as he had it since the 60s?
No, Joe, you're being a bit concrete.
Well, can I tell you something about this specific organ?
No, I was not.
I'll tell you about this organ. This organ used to be the house organ at a famous organ club in New York that I played at for many years called La Famille on 125th Street and 125th and 24th on Fifth Avenue. And what happened was the lady who ran the club was named Miss B. Remember her, Dave?
Yeah.
And Miss B used to always say about me, he said, I can't understand why that white boy cannot be on time. But she ruled that club with an iron fist, right? And so the thing about it, but I played there on every Wednesday and every Sunday with drummer Jesse Cheese Amin, and I played there many times with Russell Malone and, you know, and every organist like Charles Erland. And anyhow, one time I was playing there with a saxophonist named Gene Gee, one of my good friends and colleagues, and Jack McDuff came in. I really hadn't known Jack McDuff for many years, but this was Jack McDuff's organ because he was going with Miss B for a little while, and he had a bunch of organs, and he gave this one to La Famille. So I'm actually playing on an organ that was Jack McDuff's organ. And when Joey DeFrancesco found out I bought this organ, by the way, Miss B's daughter, Denise, was a lawyer. And she took over when the club closed. She called me up frantically. I got to get this organ out by Thursday, and maybe it was Tuesday. So I said, okay, I'll come and pick it up. And she said, how much can you give me for it? I said, I'll give you $800 for it. So I got the Leslie, which I sold to another organist that very day, and I got this organ for $400. So that's how I got this organ. Well, it used to be Jack McDuff's organ.
How old do you think the organ is?
Well, I know that this organ is an early 60s models. There's ways to tell when the organ, because the organ that I gig on is an early 70s model. And the organs from the 50s, if you pull out the drawer bars, they actually, you can't pull them out smoothly because they got tracks in them. This one has some tracks, but not.
Uh-oh.
Answered your question and more.
That was weird.
Thank you very much.
I just froze and rebooted for some reason.
Okay. Oh, well, I can hear you.
Radam, there was another question in the chat from Brian. Brian, can you unmute yourself? Do you want to ask you actually had a few questions.
Hey, Radam, how you doing?
Okay. I don't see you, Brian, but yes.
From Cecil's. I met you at Cecil's many times.
Oh, okay, great.
Let's see. What was the B1 and the B2 like?
There was no B1. There was just a BV. That's the first organ called a BV.
Were they bigger?
And there was a CV and a BV.
So were they like? Yeah.
And then there was a B2, and then there was a B3. The BV did not have these things over here, which are called percussion units. I mean, which are called vibrato units. The vibrato came in on the B2. And then the percussion unit, which means you have a click. I'll show you the click. Hear that? I don't have any sound, but it gives you a click on the note. That's called percussion. That came in on the B3.
Okay.
So as they got better technically, now the BV also was much heavier because it had a preamp for the right hand, for the top manual, a preamp for the bottom manual, and a preamp for the bass. So
I figured they were heavier. I figured they were heavier, like
has
the first.
it's less heavy. Not that it's light, but it's less heavy because it's all compacted into one preamp.
So how much of the weight of the B3 is from the speaker?
Well, the speaker, because you move the speaker separately, you wouldn't add it on. You know, the organ weighs about 380 pounds.
Okay.
But, you know, Bruce Williams told me I ought to make this video on how to move a B3. And I was going to actually do this video, and I have 4 sons, right? And I was going to say, make sure you have 4 sons so they can help you move the organ, you know? Now, I only have 1 son left at the house, so that, but that was one of the sort of comedic things I was going to put.
Yeah, but I've seen you move that by yourself.
I can move it by myself, and I'll tell you something. When I first started moving the organ, I had a gig at LC's every Monday night with one of the greatest musicians I ever met, named Charlie Mason, who was a trumpet player from Newark, and a great drummer named Eddie Crawford. And we used to work there every Monday. And I was trying to move the organ in, and John Patton, the famous organist, was there, and I was trying to move the organ, and he was just ragging on me about how that I was weak and that I didn't know how to move the organ. And this little guy who was 5'3", Richard McCrae, another great organist from Newark, came over and said, "Listen, young man, I'm going to show you how to move the organ." I said, "Well, let me help." He said, "No, I don't need any help. I'm going to show you how to move the organ." And the whole idea is don't lift the whole organ at once. Move the organ, put it down, get to the next side, put it down, so you never have the total weight of the organ at one time. And that's how I move it, so that it doesn't, because I couldn't pick up I couldn't bench press 380 pounds. But I can move the organ because I got a little method.
One last question.
Yes.
The bass. I know you have the pedals and you use your left hand. Which generates most of the bass?
Well, they both. Okay, I'm going to show you something. They both generate. You can't, if you play the bass without. Here's the bass in the left hand, without the. Oh, sorry. Here's the bass without pedals.
Point the mic to the Leslie.
Okay, here we go. Ready? Okay, that's okay. But when I add the pedals, and I can double that, at that tempo, I'll double the pedal. Now I got a thumb. And that's how you get the sound for the organ. Now, sometimes, like, I may just play the pedals. Sometimes I'm not playing or I'm just playing the bass because it's a medium tempo. I can do that. But if I'm playing at an up tempo, then I have to double the bass in the foot. I mean in the left hand. So let's say. See, now I'm playing. Now I'm doubling in the pedal, and I'm playing the pedal staccato, and I'm playing the left hand legato.
I see.
And that gives you the thumb, and it also gives you the individuality of your groove, of your sound. So Jack McDuff, for example, he liked to hold the pedal down just a little bit longer than most organists. See, but Jimmy Smith was very staccato. So I hope you can hear the difference in those two styles of playing the bass.
Takes some kind of coordination.
Yeah.
Well, organists are like drummers. We, you know, like one of the things I like to do on organ is I like to play rhythms against each other. Okay? In fact, my son is here. Come over here, Desmond. My son plays drums. I'm going to ask him to play drums for a second.
Yeah.
And I want to show you how I'm going to play different rhythms over a blues. I'm just going to play different rhythms over the blues. I'm going to play 5 against 4. I'm going to play 3 against 4. If I get into it, I might play 7 against 4. And what I'm going to ask him to do is just play straight 4s. So you can hear the 4. You're going to hear the 4 in the bass too, but my right hand is going to do something different. All right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. Yeah.
Played a lot of different rhythms against that 4. So that's one of the things that a lot of organists do. We're definitely trying to play, you know, in the right hand we might play one rhythm, but we got to keep the 4/4. We got to keep 4 on a beat in the left hand. And that's what Dave does too. Right, Dave?
That's right.
I mean, so that's one way that we communicate. We might be communicating 4s. He's playing the right cymbal, I'm playing the bass, and then we're playing figures together.
Yeah, I'm doing stuff with the left hand.
The right hand.
I'm playing stuff with the left hand against with the groove.
Right. And if we can hook up with that, then we're really communicating.
Do we have any other questions? I guess not.
So when are the gates going to open back up?
Wow, if I knew that.
That's a good question. When are the gates going to happen?
Well,
live music.
If you knew it, that's an answer nobody has.
I know.
I think it's going to be slow, and I think we're going to be doing a lot more of this for quite a while. I'm sorry to say. You know, if the Broadway's not opening the whole year, the rest of the year.
One of my good friends, Andrew Atkinson, was going to be playing drums in the new Michael Jackson show. It was supposed to already be open. Then it was moved to rehearsals in September, and now they moved to rehearsals in March 2021.
Right.
So,
Dave, did you have a show, Dave?
Well, I had a show. Well, I don't know if it's going to haven't been canceled yet, but I have a gig at the Blue Note in end of July with the Duke Ellington Orchestra.
Interesting.
And we haven't got official notice that it's been canceled yet, so I'm just waiting to hear.
Yeah, I think most everybody is sort of hopeful, and they'll probably wait until the last minute to actually cancel it because they're just hoping it can go on.
Right.
You know, all I can say is to everybody is stay safe and be patient because we will we'll be back at some point. We will be swinging, and we'll be presenting live music, and these guys will be playing all over the place again. But in the meantime, we're going to rely on watching them online, hanging out in meetings like this, and like that. Anybody wants to chime in with that? I'd be glad to hear it.
By the way, the lady who asked the question about the Leslie, the 21H, that means it's a model. It has only 2 speeds. The 21H model is the one that, it's the one that I have in my corner over here. And that one only has a off and fast. It doesn't have a medium speed. It's off or fast. But it's a good Leslie. It's still a good Leslie. It can project.
Radam, what is that? What is that? You have a Leslie that you use portable? What is it? Is that a portable Leslie?
I don't have a portable Leslie. I have a amplifier called a motion sound amplifier that I play when I use a portable organ. And in the motion sound amplifier, it actually has a revolving speaker. So that it's not so when I want the speaker to move fast, the speaker is actually moving. It's not a hybrid type of thing. It's an actual sound of something moving fast. And
okay. I was going to say, I noticed in the Leslie, right, there's a piece at the bottom that moves, and then there's these horns at the top that spin.
Yes, I mentioned that before, Dave. I said that the bottom part is called the woofer, and it spins, and the top part is called the tweeter, and that spins. Now, some organists like to take the bottom, the woofer, and only have it go fast. It can go fast, but not slow. You dig what I'm saying?
Right.
But so they like to do that, and it can go slow, or it can go no speed, or it can go fast. I prefer the woofer to go, and the medium speed and the fast speed. But it's what you like, because it's definitely Don Patterson, for example, liked it the one way he liked it was no speed on the bottom on the woofer.
So I put up a poll. If you guys can see it and respond to it, we've been putting this up from time to time on these meetings, and to get an idea of what everybody's thinking. So there are 4 questions in this. So if you scroll down, you'll see all the questions, and I'll share the results if people are interested.
I don't see it.
It's basically about what we feel about the summer or the fall opening up for performances. For those who don't know our organization, who are new to us, we have been a nonprofit organization honoring jazz since 2006 when we were founded. And we've been presenting concerts like crazy. Each year, probably 20 to 25 events. And we have a pretty strong youth education commitment. Radam is part of that, and Dave certainly has been part of our performances on various stages, and like that's what we do. And we're limited to what we can do these days, but rest assured we are planning for future events and for future programs, kind of like gathering up all the forces and seeing where we can go and when. Of course, this poll will help us determine, hopefully, what we can do. There is some talk. I can let you in on a little something. There is some talk that at least in Red Bank they're gonna block off Broad Street for a ways. I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so that the restaurants can open up outside seating.
Right.
And
good.
And if that happens, I've been talking to people about people in the town about presenting music during those evenings, out there on the street, separated out 6 feet away from each other, as small combos and stuff. So who knows? That might work out. And I already talked to Radam about that. we'll get to witness him firsthand carrying that that organ by himself. Maybe
on that dollar,
if we're lucky. So keep a lookout for that, and we'll see what we can do. If everybody is pretty much voted, 54% of you have voted. So keep voting for a little bit, and then we'll. Anybody else have any thoughts, insights, questions, jokes? Why don't you play something for us, Radam, and we'll end in a minute or two. Okay. Well, thank you so much. We did have one last question. Maybe you can just address it briefly. It was, when was the first Hammond? I recall changing our church pipe organ for a Hammond. I thought it in the mid-50s.
Well, I touched on this before, and like I said, the Hammond organ first came on the market in 1938. So that's whether, you know, so that was in the A1, that was the organ called the A100. It had a speaker underneath it. It had no Leslie, because the Leslie hadn't yet been invented. So, but that was the first one in 1938, the A100.
There you go.
Oh, I have another question, Radam.
Yes,
now,
Dave.
In John Watermakers in Philadelphia, they had a huge organ in that store with those huge pipes. Could you play jazz on those type of organs?
That's a great question, and that's part of the reason why, by the way, I talked about Fats Waller not being one of the innovators. That when you play a pipe organ, when you hit the note, it has a delay, almost like Zoom has a delay. You know, you hit it and it comes out afterwards.
Right.
So it's very hard to hook up in any rhythmic sense with a drummer because you don't know what the delay is. It depends on the air that goes up the pipes.
Right.
So when they play classical music, the organist has to think ahead. You know, but when I play with a drummer, if that happens to happen, we can never hook up.
Right.
You know, like when I was teaching on Zoom recently, I figured out something that if I had a student playing like this, if I was going to a student, I'd say, play this line. Like, let's say. And then I play the next chord. Right? And well, I figured if I come in on the fourth beat, it's almost his one. So I was going 1, 2, 3, 4, but that's one to him because it's late, right, on Zoom,
right,
or FaceTime or whatever. Well, that's the same type of concept of playing a pipe organ. You have latency.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I can attest to that too. As a trumpet player, I've played a lot of churches with big pipe organs and everything, and it is in fact the better organists will anticipate that and they will play before you play, so that it comes out together.
That's the only way to do that. And the only thing is that if you play in a big church with a bunch of big pipes, the delay is going to be greater.
That's right.
So you have to, or you can't come in with any sense. Like I played a gig at this Kirkpatrick church, and it was I was playing gospel music, and the singer was singing. We were having a hard time because I'm not a master of thinking that way, you know. So she was always, one thing I've had to do over Zoom teaching is I have to stop clapping for my students. Like they're playing exercise, going 1, 2, and I'm trying to clap. That's only confusing them because it's not coming out on time.
Right.
So my time is, during this quarantine, my time has gone, has gone way down because, I'm constantly thinking in a different way.
So Radam, have you ever tried to play one of those Bach organ fugues?
Have I ever tried playing a Bach organ fugue? Dave, I have a hard enough time playing Bach on piano.
Because the Bach organ fugues, a lot of those have like 5 parts.
First of all, also, they have 5 parts, and there's so many manuals. There's 5 or 6 manuals, so you set all these manuals up for sounds.
Right.
I could mess around with it, but it's not going to be the real deal, so I'm not going to say this. Okay?
No, because, in some colleges and universities, they have master's degrees on organ.
Right, but it's classical organ.
Yeah, classical organ, and they have to be versed in all those Bach organ fugues or any organ fugue.
I'm one of my favorite classical organists back in the 60s was Virgil Fox, and he actually brought the organ to the Fillmore East and West with a light show, and he played Bach Fox stuff, and they had the light show that they played for all the rock bands.
Right.
And I love the way he played. Because he played with a lot of drive. You know, you could hear the rhythm the way he played, and he played with a lot of sensuality that I found appealing in a, you know, like the way a jazz person might play a ballad. You know, I felt that breath. You know, it just didn't feel regimented. So I really like Virgil Fox. You know, the way he played that classical organ.
By and large, they're solo artists. They play the organ by themselves. You know, there's apparently a historic, huge pipe organ right here in Asbury Park, at the
convention center.
No, it's at the I can't think. Jacqueline, you must know this.
Oh, Grand Auditorium. I think that's what it's called.
There's a, what is it?
Great Auditorium.
Auditorium in Asbury Park.
Great Auditorium. Oh, Asbury Park.
The great auditorium, right?
That's in Ocean Grove.
That's in Ocean Grove.
Yeah, but there's some kind of huge organ there. I think, is that what you're talking about or no?
Oh, maybe it's Ocean Grove. Yeah, I guess it's Ocean Grove, right? Apparently it's quite famous and huge and like multi-million-dollar kind of investment thing. So, and they have classical organ concerts there from time to time.
A friend of mine named Dan Kostelnik used to work for this organ repairman, Jack Pelak, and his job was to go and clean inside the tubes. That was a very thankless job.
I bet. It's like a chimney sweep. All right. Well, so Radam, I want to thank you tremendously for being our guest. Having me. It was most enjoyable, I'm sure, as everyone can attest. And you know, I'm going to hang out here for a little while. So if anybody wants to hang and chat and just have a nice little hang, that's cool with us. But officially, we're gonna close it down and just say thank you, and everyone feels safe. And Radam, great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Beautiful.
Thank everybody for being here.
Say hi to Cecil.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Jacqueline, thank you.
Thank you, Radam.
Thanks,
much.
Jacqueline.
Very informational, and I learned a few new things. Thank you, and thank you, Joe.
Thanks,
all right.
Jacqueline.
Thanks, Joe.
You still with us, Dave? There you go.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Cool.
Yeah.
This says, you see this chat? Sarah McLawler, jazz musician, played the pipe organ at St. Peter's, the jazz church in New York City.
I did a couple of gigs with me, Jack McDuff, and Sarah McLawler. She was like a Wild Bill Davis clone.
Oh, yeah.
She sounded like Wild Bill Davis, and she actually showed me the settings that Wild Bill Davis used. Okay? So I was very impressed with her, and she had all that Errol Garner stuff that Wild Bill Davis had, you know, like this type of stuff on. That's the way she played. She never played a linear line, not one linear line, but it was so fascinating. It's so orchestrated.
Yeah.
I loved it, you know, and of course, you know, it was like she's the old style, McDuff was the one in the middle, and I was the modern style, you know, which was a lot of fun. And I got a picture on my wall, by the way. Yeah, I'll show you this picture that I took at one of those concerts with me and Jack McDuff.
You know, I meant, speaking of pictures, I meant to, there you go.
Here's the picture. Can you see that? That's me and Jack McDuff.
You got to turn it so there's no glare. There you go.
There you go.
Come in a little bit.
Come closer.
Towards you.
Closer.
Towards you. That way.
Towards
there you
this way.
Go. And
I got a glare
swivel,
back.
Swivel. It's too much glare.
Too much glare.
Well, I'll tell you. Okay, here. How's this?
Pitch it upwards, like towards the ceiling, kind of thing.
There you go.
There it is. That's good.
Now come closer. All right.
So anyhow, that's me and Jack McDuff at one of those concerts.
There you go.
There you go. That's a good one.
And afterwards, so there was this lady, I'll just tell you because she's deceased. I'm trying to remember her name, but she was all involved with the Newark Jazz Festival, and she used to put on these concerts and, you know, like that. And we'd go out to eat afterwards, right? And she spent all this money on dinner, and Jack McDuff would order like a 2-pound lobster. And have like 25 people after the concert. And later they accused her, so I'm not going to mention her name, of embezzling all this money. And I said, well, I know where some of it went with all these fancy dinners after every concert. But that was, but that was a great hang for, to just be with Jack McDuff. And the way I really, met him being at La Famille. And then, and at one time at La Famille, in fact, we had this great session where Jack McDuff came in and I was playing and we were just trading 12s on a blues and the crowd was going crazy. That's what we were like, rocking the house. And the crowd was going crazy because he played 12 bars, get up, I played 12 bars, and it was on this organ. This was the organ we played on. And we did that for like a half an hour. We were rocking the house. That was Cecil Brooks III was on that gig. That was a Gene Gee gig.
Wow.
So that's the whole thing about those clubs and how you be rocking the house all night long. The people would be in sync with the music. It was so much fun. It's exhilarating.
I remember I was in Sweden with the Duke, with the Count Basie Orchestra, and we were off that night. Went to a club, and Jack McDuff was playing just right down the street from the hotel where we were staying. So we went in there, and we asked, could we sit in? And Jack McDuff said, sure, man, you can sit in, but no LPs. And everybody was looking around and said, what is he talking about, no LPs? And I figured it out. No long playing.
Yeah, that's right. One time when I was playing with Cecil at the Lenox Lounge, we had like a weekend at the Lenox Lounge, and Jack McDuff was doing something at the Blue Note that weekend. But he was the first act because the acts after that were Jimmy Smith and somebody else, I forget. Probably Jimmy Smith was last. So one night he came up to hear me at the Lenox Lounge, and I was so happy. And he came in, and the guy wanted to charge him the admission, $20. I said to the guy, that's the great Jack McDuff there. And he said, I can't say it. Well, I could probably because we're off the air, but he said, I don't blank care who he is. He's going to pay the $20.
Damn.
So I paid the $20 so Jack McDuff could come in. But the thing was, that was really great for Jack to come up and the thing he would be at La Famille all the time because during that time he was playing on up the street, which at St. Nick's Pub, which was then called Dude's Lounge. That was his house gig. And that gig was over at 1 at the time, and then it had another band. So he comes down to La Famille, which was open till 3, and hang there, So that was always great to see Jack McDuff,
It was called Dude's Lounge.
Dude's Lounge.
At 149th and St. Nicholas.
That's right.
There you go.
Later on,
that building burned down, right?
Yeah, well, it burned down after it was St. Nick's Pub, and
yeah, I mean, like in the last couple of years, it totally burned down to the ground.
Right.
Sad.
Yep.
But I remember we was on his cruise, and Jack McDuff was on the gig with Al Gray, right?
The trombonist, yes.
So we get on the cruise, and there's no B3.
Oh.
So Jack's like, what am I going to play? They actually brought Jack this little organ keyboard for him to play the gig on. And he played it, but I was like, oh man, don't these people know what's going on?
One time, Jack McDuff called me at 6 o'clock on a Friday night. He said, I got a gig at Plainfield High School at 8 o'clock. Can you bring the organ? And it was 6 o'clock. So I got there at I said, okay, I had a gig earlier. It was on a Valentine's Day. So anyhow, I got there it was at Plainfield High School. I moved the organ in. Like you said, I can move the organ myself, Joe. I moved the organ in, but I'm dressed it was snowing. It was in February, and I have boots on. I'm not dressed to play a concert, right? Well, Ernie Scott played at 8 o'clock, and he played from 8 to 9. No Jack McDuff at 9 o'clock. So 9:15, 9:30, Jack is still not there. So the guy said to me, do you play? I said, yeah, I play the organ. He said, well, can you play? I said, okay, I can play. And then he looks at me, he said, you go to a gig dressed like that? I said, I didn't think I was on the gig. I thought I was moving the organ. So about 9:45, Jack McDuff got there, and they had to close the school at 10:15.
Oh, wow.
So he played for maybe 2 songs or 3 songs,
Oh, my goodness.
That was funny, though.
Can you play? Yeah. And you go to a gig dressed like that? That's good, man. That's a good one.
But I got paid for moving the organ and lending the organ. I think I made $100 for that.
Wow.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh, you're back in the bathroom, huh?
Yeah. I figured it's time for a break, isn't it? In case anybody needs it, it's here.
The bathroom shop behind him?
Yes, it is. And there's no John on the screen either.
Yeah, Joe. So you been writing a lot of music, Joe?
No, I haven't in a while.
No.
Just trying to, figure out what direction to go,
Well, yeah. Joe, you're going to be very proud of me. You know why?
I've been cooking a lot, though.
All right.
But, Joe, you're going to be very proud of me. Because in this pandemic, I've learned how to write on Sibelius. And I've written 6 big band charts.
Fantastic.
On Sibelius.
Great.
Because remember what you told me that one time when I had that chart I brought in? Because I wrote this chart for high school students. You said, I'm going to put this on the computer, and after I give you the parts, I want you to take all those parts you got and throw them in the garbage. But I didn't. I kept them just in case,
Right.
But I only use your parts on that.
I was a student at Manhattan School of Music, and I went into a theory course. And, of course, I'm a cocky student. I think I know, better and all this. So, of course, I would wait till last minute to do my theory homework. So I scribble out this theory homework, all this analyzation and, this and that. I forget what it was. And I handed it in to the teacher, and he looked at it and he threw it back at me and he said, "Do not give me your dirty laundry."
Damn.
From then on, I was determined to make everything I presented look correct and appropriate and clean, Don't give me your dirty laundry.
Yeah, yeah.
So Kiki is a teacher, and I'm sure she can appreciate that.
You ever see Mingus manuscript?
Oh yeah, I've worked on that.
Okay, but that was some sloppy stuff that he wrote out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, but
I have a question for you. I was just wondering, do you have an all-time favorite gig? Like something that you'll just never forget?
Well, I have a lot of gigs that I would never forget. Will never forget.
There are different reasons.
You know
for that.
something? For different reasons. Like I was telling Dave this morning, when I worked with Arthur Prysock for 1.5 years, right? the only gig that anybody ever took a gun out on and shot the gun was at the Savoy Ballroom up in the Bronx. And it was Ruth Brown and Arthur Prysock. And they were supposed to start at 9, and there were 2 shows. Second show was supposed to start like at 11:30. But they didn't start till 10, and Ruth Brown played a long first set, and Arthur played for about 45 minutes, and now it's almost midnight. And the promoter, so they have 200 people outside in August. It's 100 degrees out, and they want to come in. And the promoter said, before you let anybody in, I want the whole place clean. Well, that's not going to happen overnight. So the crowd started coming in, and they had a couple of security guards, and one of them hit a woman with their stick right on the hand, and her man had a gun, and he shot the gun up in the air. And me and Don Williams, who's the drummer with Arthur, we just hit the floor. We just were on the floor. We were so scared. That's the only time. But that's not what you're talking about. That's not the type of gig you're talking about.
I got one of those stories too.
But I played with David Fathead Newman. There were some really great gigs with David Fathead Newman and Curtis Fuller, as the front line. I played with Eddie Lockjaw Davis with this great drummer named Charlie Rice. That was phenomenal. I played in Cecil Brooks III's band for 10 years, and we had some really killing gigs, So one of the gigs, I remember when they had the first jazz stamp ever, and we played and we opened up for Wallace Rooney. And that was great, because I was so scared that we weren't going to sound good. And we sort of, we sounded at least as good as Wallace Rooney's band that night. And that was killing. That was one of the most killing gigs that I've done, But, sometimes we'll be playing, me, Dave, and Bill Saxon will be playing at Jacobs every other Sunday. We were doing that up until the quarantine. And, those were great gigs. Sometimes we just be smoking.
Yeah.
It's hard to say pick just one gig. I'm just so fortunate to be playing with musicians, who I enjoy playing with. It's not every gig, but enough to make it work. You know what I mean?
I have one of those gun
Well,
gigs.
yeah, my son said the last gig that I did 19 years at Crossroads every Tuesday night. And the last gig that we did there, it was like there might have been 250 people in there in a room for a jam session. Yeah.
That place was like in Roselle Park or something, right?
It's near there, Garwood.
Garwood,
New
right.
Jersey, yeah.
I remember that place. They used to serve alligator. That's why.
Okay.
That's the first time I had alligator in that place. Watching you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How was it?
It was tough.
Really? I never had the alligator. I stuck to the sauteed broccoli, but
I never ordered it again.
Alligator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
they went through a couple of different cooks, but it was Cajun cuisine, so that makes sense.
Exactly. I have one of those gun gig stories, sort of.
Okay.
I was actually playing a wedding in a wedding band, and it was up at there's a wedding factory up there. I forget what it's called. I think it's maybe it's still there. I don't know. But up in like the Oranges.
Shadowbrook?
Not Shadowbrook, no. West Orange, South Orange, West Orange, something like that. Anyway, it was a big, huge to-do like place, right? It's like a wedding factory, and they could have 5 full big parties there at the same time, and no problem. So we get there, and we walk in, and the place is deserted, and there's just like people sort of wandering around, and every once in a while a guest would come and walk in, but not like hundreds and hundreds like it usually is. So we go in and start talking to the staff, like, where do we go and what's the story? And it's completely deserted. And somebody tells us that, well, I think it was American Express or something was supposed to have a picnic there, and the CEO looked out the window and it was a little cloudy, so he decided to call it off. Thought it would rain, so they canceled that. And then there was supposed to be a big wedding. Well, turns out the night before, the bride shot the groom dead.
Oh my goodness!
So the wedding was off, and some of the guests like didn't hear yet, so they would be coming, and they would have to tell them what happened. So the bands.
Here's the important thing: did you get paid?
We got paid, and the two bands that were there, and all the wait staff and all the people that worked there had the biggest feast you could imagine. It was like all the food that was already prepared for the two things. So, yeah.
Wow. Did he die, or did she just shoot him and he
dead? Shot
him dead.
Should have waited till after the wedding. At least he would have got his money.
Right.
Wow.
No life insurance policy for her.
She should have waited an extra day. She couldn't collect it.
Exactly. Collect the boost.
You should have never talked about the bachelor party.
Oh man.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was over. I don't know. I never got the story.
I once played a wedding, and I was just playing for the ceremony, and it was supposed to start at 3, and the bride's there, and the groom didn't get there till like around 4, and they were just about to pack up when he showed up, but he got there, so they did the wedding. That's good. She didn't shoot him. That was good.
Well, I played a wedding in Philadelphia, man, and this guy must have spent at least over $200,000, and the groom never showed up.
Whoa.
Never showed up at all. We were set up to play, so the father of the bride said, we're just gonna have a big party. So we played, and everybody was dancing, and we got paid, but that was it. That was the end of it. The groom never showed up.
Sounds like he probably met his his fate after the wedding.
Oh boy.
That was Gotti's daughter, wasn't it?
Huh?
It was Gotti's daughter.
Gotti's daughter, yeah.
Right.
Now then he's really in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
man.
sign out, guys.
Okay.
Okay, Mike.
Give you a call tomorrow.
Sorry?
You around tomorrow? I can give you a call.
I'm around, yeah.
All right. Good night, everyone.
All right.
All right, Mike. Take it easy. So who's left?
I don't know, Liz. Liz, you don't want to put your camera on, huh? I guess not. Maybe she fell asleep.
There she is.
Oh, there she is.
No thanks.
Oh no, she's gone.
3-mile walk through Remsen while listening to your whole concert. It was great. Your whole evening.
Thank you.
You walked through Rumson, really?
Yeah, I just wanted to go somewhere different. So I walked across one of those big bridges and listened to Radam play his music. It was great.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, there's an idea. Maybe we could like have some online concerts and have picnics or something catered or something. I don't know.
There's got to be a way. If people can dine outside, then there can be music outside.
Yeah, that's true.
You just have to figure out a way to pay everyone.
That's also true. Yes. Dave, I'm telling you, so good to see you.
You too, man. Yeah. We were hoping to be down there this summer, man, until this pandemic hit, man. Because last year it rained. We got rained out.
Oh, you were with Radam also.
Yes, that's the band that we recorded.
That was the big band.
That was the band you recorded?
That was the Oregon big band that we were coming down with.
Well, if we open it up again, we'll have that again.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was like, and the whole band was on its way down. Remember?
Yeah.
We were all, and it was touch and go whether it was going to happen or not.
Right.
Yeah, because I was almost there.
Well,
and Radam called me and said, he said, Joe canceled.
I didn't say Joe canceled. I said it's raining.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Well, the town canceled.
So the town canceled.
But
All right.
I'm happy to report you did get paid anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But yet, I was looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually had a rehearsal the night before or 2 nights before. So
yeah,
we were, you know, we had a rehearsal and, you know, we were looking forward to it.
Yeah.
We'll do it again.
Okay.
Certainly.
Cool.
And especially if your CD is out by then.
Well,
you'll have something to sell there.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yep. This is a really exceptional, I mean, you know, I think it's really a good product. I think it's very enjoyable. You know, it's going to be, should be a good thing to get out there, you know.
You have any guests on
it? And it's unique.
Any guests on it? Or vocalists or anything?
No, we didn't. You know, it's hard enough to get 14 musicians together for rehearsal, you know, get every one of them took a solo. You know what I mean? Every musician had a solo in it.
Yeah.
At least one. And, you know, and to have rehearsal, get everybody together at one spot. I think the second rehearsal we had, Dave was just back from Japan, so he was suffering from jet lag.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know. So, you know,
yeah.
But we got together, got everybody together and made it happen.
That's cool.
And we had, it's a minor miracle. We did it like in 9 hours.
You know, they're recording right here on Zoom these days.
You mean they're virtually recording?
Virtual recording, yeah.
Yeah.
What, recording your CD?
People are starting to do that, yeah.
Really?
Yes. You know, the problem, and like we were talking, the problem is you can't play at the same time.
That's right.
Right.
So some of the basic tenets of the music are not going to be there.
That's right.
Call and response, getting the groove together. I mean, you're just playing to a click track.
Well, here's what I'm recommending. Like to Ben, they're putting together this thing with the graduating seniors. What I'm recommending is that they record each of the rhythm section members record their individual part, and then and send that to the horn players, right?
Right.
But then send it back. Have the rhythm section re-record so that they can sort of interact with what the horn players are doing.
Right. I mean, that's interesting. That's interesting to do it that way. I mean,
so it's going to be several passes, you know.
Right. You know that, I mean, with one of my Jazz House Kids classes, we did a virtual recording, and I had the guitarist lay down a scratch track, and then the organist played on top of the scratch track. Then he sent it back, and the drummer and the guitarist laid it down.
Right.
After that.
But each one only did it once, right?
Right. But then the horn players, they just played on, you know, I mean, it wasn't even my project. You know, I mean, I wasn't supervising it. They had a deadline, and then the horns just played on top, you know, and you can, and I can tell that it would have been better if they had recorded live, you know. But
I say
it's where it is. That's where it is.
I say we all should just get the COVID-19 test. Everybody's negative, and let's just go in the studio and record like we normally do.
Well,
boom.
Yeah, but the test is only 60% accurate.
Yeah, tests don't work necessarily. At least not yet.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, we don't even like to go into. You guys know this. We don't even like to go into a recording studio and be separated, right? In the separate rooms and stuff. I prefer to be all in one room in a recording studio.
Right.
So you know,
I mean, we did it all at the same time, but we had the trumpets isolated in one spot. You know, I mean, imagine being a trumpet player in your room. You're in the room with 3 trumpets for 9 hours.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if one of them is positive for COVID, they're going to get it.
Right.
But the trombones, the saxes, and the organ was in the same room.
Yeah, and who needs trumpet players? Let them get COVID. You know, that's all right.
Where did you do this? Where'd you do this?
We did this at Sound on Sound.
In Montclair.
Okay.
And Sound on Sound, they got a big room. They got 2 studios, actually. One is a big room that's really good for That's good for, you know, getting a big band in there.
Mm-hmm.
But we did have the trumpets isolated, and then, you know, the saxes in one place, the trombones, the organ was isolated, you know, the speaker was isolated, the guitar speaker was isolated, and
I did mine in Hoboken at I don't know what the hell's the name of it. I forgot.
Was that the studio near the river, Joe?
Yeah, it was flooded out during.
It was flooded out during Sandy,
okay,
right?
Joe, I'm going to have to go
Sandy.
in a few minutes because my wife needs her computer.
Okay, man.
No, you don't need it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we recorded a Duke Ellington record in that studio.
Yeah, I forget the name of it.
Yeah, with a Japanese vocalist. I can't remember the name of it either.
You know the studio in Hoboken I'm talking about, Radam?
That's where I did the Joe Piscopo record.
That's right. I can't remember
right
the name
there
of it.
on the water, right close to the water.
It's a good studio.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever opened up after
Sandy.
Oh, okay.
Because they were flooded out. They were low down.
But they were on this. Were they on the second floor or the first floor?
First floor.
First floor.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They had some offices, I think, and even some bedrooms or something up on the second floor.
Right. They had the organ was there, you know. So
right.
Had an organ there, but I hadn't heard anything about that.
Yeah, remember that when we was in the studio that time, Radam, with Dave Darlington, he talked about the last recording we did.
Yeah.
That was at that studio with Duke Ellington Orchestra. And he was the engineer.
He mixed it afterwards?
Really nice studio.
He engineered that. He engineered that system.
He engineered the session itself.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Was he associated with them at that time?
No, he was hired by the producer.
He was hired by the producer. Okay, cool.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I mean, we had Dave Darlington mix our record. You know, as long as you have an efficient guy in the studio, you know, you could get the master technician to do it, you know, to mix it afterwards. It's be pretty good.
You know, there's a little studio right across the street from the Basie Theater called, now I can't remember the name of it. Retro Media Studios. It's a decent sized small room. You could get if you had to an octet in there, but they have a B3.
Oh, really?
Also, yep, as well as a like a little Yamaha, you know, small piano, baby grand. But nice sound, nice boards, and they have like nice equipment. They have like vintage, you know, ribbon mics and stuff. They really do a good job, surprisingly enough, right here in Red Bank. It's like $40 an hour last time I saw it.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Wow.
That's very inexpensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I mixed my big band record there.
Okay. And it's right by the Count Basie Theater, huh?
Right across the street.
Wow. What's the name of that?
The studio is called Retro Media Sound, I guess.
Retro Media. Okay.
Retro Media.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I mean, maybe we should do a project down there when it opens up.
Yeah.
If the guy survived, you know,
right.
That's
the
like,
business
you know,
survived.
the day that, so when we were mixing the record, right? We're talking about mid-March, right?
March 18th.
We're in that transitional time where it hadn't quite closed down, but it was about to close down, right?
Right.
And so Abel Morales, his school had already closed. So it's like in the middle. Rutgers, my son goes to Rutgers, so he had already come home. So we're going to the studio. Abel Morales' wife is like, I can't believe you're going to go out and mix a record in the middle of the pandemic. So Dave said, you don't have to be there. He said, no, I'm going to be there. So he comes in, and Dave and I are in the studio, and I took public transportation in, you know, and in any case, the streets were totally empty already.
Right.
And we're in the studio, we're mixing the record. And then Abel texted one of our friends. He said, I can't believe all these old, meaning me and Dave, guys in here, they're coughing and freaking me out. coughing and freaking him out. But luckily none of us got anything.
That's
so.
sick.
Listen, I was on a cruise. I was supposed to be on a cruise on March 15th. So my wife and I went down 4 days early. We flew down to Tampa to take the cruise.
Okay.
So March 15th was supposed to be the start of the cruise, the Ides of March, right?
Right.
On the 13th, they canceled all sailing vessels.
Yeah.
It was the Ides of March was supposed to be the cruise, and on Friday the 13th it was canceled.
Wow.
Damn.
So we ended up flying back, but still.
Would you go on a cruise, knowing what had just happened in the?
I was going to go back then.
Okay.
Because I figured that those ships, they clean them like crazy. As soon as there was one problem with one of the lines, all the other ships were like cleaning like crazy. They were, they were checking you, make sure you didn't have a temperature or anything before you got on, and steam cleaning the ships and accosting you in the hallways, to wash your hands,
Right.
But so I would have thought it would be the safest place to be, away from everybody else,
Yeah. Well.
And then I thought, listen, if they want to keep
sauna, would you go in the sauna or the swimming pool under those conditions?
Maybe the sauna.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know about the swimming pool.
Well, the sauna, the heat would kill the viruses anyway.
You'd think.
I don't know about that.
Well,
I mean, it does live in our bodies.
I don't think anybody knows anything about this virus. Hardly.
I think you're right.
Well, I've been using the steam therapy when I come in from driving, and it works.
But I was thinking, if we were out there and we got quarantined, what the hell? I just got another 2 weeks free vacation.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, but you couldn't leave your room. That's not much of a vacation.
That's a good point. I had a nice room with a balcony, so it wouldn't have been that bad.
Okay.
Yeah, but you probably wouldn't have been allowed on the balcony.
No, I don't think they can stop that.
I know, but when I did a number of jazz cruises, right? So you're not like the regular musicians. But they never got a balcony. But I know I got into the promoter's room a couple of times with the balcony, and they were nice.
Yeah, you got passenger status when you play.
Yeah.
You don't have crew status when you're a guest on a jazz cruise.
I did a couple of cruises as a conductor.
Okay.
So I got a good room out of it, for some reason.
Okay.
I did. It wasn't a jazz cruise. Unfortunately, it was something like a sock hop cruise or something. It was really 50s. What was it called? Malt Shop Memories cruise.
Okay.
Right.
The malt shop.
And then I did another one. I did the Crossing on the QE2, but I was there as Ann Hampton Calloway's conductor.
Oh.
All right.
So they took care of us pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least they didn't treat us like they treat the musicians who work there. The musicians who work for the cruise line, they're treated very poorly.
Yeah.
That's called crew status.
Their cabins down, like way down in the basement or something.
Yes,
Right.
they're down all the way down there,
See,
and they're also not allowed to come up too often.
Right.
Yeah, you had passenger status. Passenger
Yes, I had
status.
passenger
You
status.
eat regular food. You eat like the passengers eat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And a couple of them were those Bill Lockett cruises. That's when I worked first with Larry O'Neill, and then with Irene Reed, then with Cynthia Holliday. So that was fun because the hang is fun because there's like 4 different bands on them.
Right.
You get to hang out with a lot of musicians and stuff like that.
That would be
That's
cool.
fun.
Sure. But those musicians, the one I did, I guess it was the Crossing. One of the musicians told me that he somehow got the concession for the crew bar. So he managed to set up a bar, and he brings the booze himself, and sells it. He makes like more money doing that than the gig itself. We have Ellie.
Sorry.
Hello, Ellie.
Hey.
You're late.
I was doing some jazz art stuff.
Okay.
I didn't realize I was cleaning, and then I did some jazz art stuff, and I went, "Oh no, I missed the whole thing." Oh.
Yeah, I did manage to record it, so.
Oh, cool. Oh, very cool.
That's a cool thing. I
Yeah.
did get a recording of it.
Yeah, I think
We're just about wrapping up, though.
I'm sorry. I think the info at Jazz Arts is working now. I don't know what happened, but whatever. I didn't do anything. I saw your email when I was at work.
So you didn't change it?
I don't know. It seems to be working.
Oh, okay.
It looks like something about recovery and
I don't know.
yeah, something like that. I read in the email. So I
Okay.
think it's working. I'll do a test. Sorry, I disturbed your discussion.
No worries.
No problem.
Oh, Ellie helps.
Ellie helps out our organization.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry I missed your show, but I'll catch the recorded version.
Great,
And I'll see you all next
It
Monday.
went really well.
I'm sure it's getting better and
fun.
better, better. Okay.
Great.
All right. I'll see y'all. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Bye.
I guess I just hang out in a Zoom room and just have people come in and out and say hello.
There you go.
I have a feeling it does something to the bandwidth, although I'm not exactly quite sure how that
What's that?
works.
The bandwidth.
Having a
what is?
bandwidth is like your internet connection, I guess, how fast it can go.
Oh, I see. Right.
So I don't know.
Well, I'm using my phone.
Yeah,
You guys are on the computer, right?
I can tell that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on my phone. That's why I got these ear
Right.
plugs. Look at my
And you're
hand.
holding your phone. You're holding your
Yeah, I
phone,
got
so it
gloves
looks.
on.
You're holding your phone, so it looks like you're jumping around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's why. You look like you're a jelly bean, Dave.
Right.
Right. I know. There you go. Look at that.
There you go.
All right. or a boxer.
Yeah.
And certain species of fish.
What the hell is that? My iWatch is talking to me about fish.
Uh-oh.
I don't know what the hell that means.
Well, anyhow, I enjoyed it, Joe. Thanks so much. It was
Well,
fun.
thank you.
It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Playing in front of people.
So I fell asleep. Radam. I didn't wake up until it was like quarter to 8. I said,
Oh,
shit.
okay. Well, you'll have to watch the rerun too.
Yeah.
But that,
Well,
it was good. It was good. It was
Cool.
fun.
I just sent you a little text, Radam.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw it in the chat.
Oh, in the chat.
How do you send text?
Thank you.
Well, you see the little chat button on the bottom of your screen? Oh, I don't know what it looks like on a phone, but there is a
Chat button.
chat.
Okay, I lost my video. Let me
Yeah.
see. No, I see I see a little thing down at the bottom. Let me see what it says here. No. Oh, chat. That's what it is. Oh, there
Chat,
it is.
yeah, and then it comes out on the side.
All right.
Right.
Oh, okay. But how do I send a message? Let's see.
And then you see you could send it to a certain person privately, or you could send it to everybody.
Okay. Let's see.
Whoa.
All right, let's see. Thanks, Joe.
There you go.
All right.
There it is.
You saw it?
See it?
You see it?
I see it.
All right. I put thanks, Joe. Yeah. Chat.
Oh, wait.
Right.
I sent that to the wrong person. Hold on. So you can send it to individuals privately.
I sent mine to everyone.
Yeah, or you can send it to everyone. There you go.
Okay. All right, there you go.
All right, man.
All right.
See you. All right.
All right.
Okay, folks. Stay safe.
Okay, all right, Joe. You take it easy.
See you soon, Dave, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
There we go. Ben, you still there?
Yeah, still here.
Oh, you're muffled. What, are you sleeping?
What?
Are you sleeping?
No.
Okay. How do you think it went?
I thought it was pretty good. I liked it.
Went well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will, I guess, talk to you. Let me know. Did you?
What?
Who's coming back in? Here he is. Dave's back. Coming back, Dave?
Joe.
That's a clip from the record?
That's one of the tunes that Radam wrote.
I thought so. Cool.
Yeah, I was just playing it. I want to see if you were still there.
By the way, if you share there's a way to share your sound from your computer or from your phone directly rather than, what was it, coming through a speaker or something?
Yeah, I was playing it on my computer. It was coming through my headphones.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah.
But if you do Zoom on your computer, you can route that sound directly through your computer into the Zoom room.
Now I was wondering because I'm on my phone and I have it on my phone also.
Yep.
I have the music on my phone. Could I do it that way too?
I think so, but I don't know what the phone settings are. So it's somewhere in settings. It probably says something about share and audio settings. Something about
more.
Do you have a share
meeting settings?
Do you have a share screen?
I have a meeting settings.
Do you see anything that says share screen?
Let me see. No. Touch up my appearance, always show. No, I don't see anything about share on here.
Anywhere else on the screen?
No.
Is there any drop down?
Let me look at this. Oh man. Let me get it. We're using enhanced encryption. No, I don't see anything about share.
Where did you find the chat?
The chat was on my phone at the bottom. When I tap at the bottom, let me go.
And it should be
tap the phone.
Right next to chat should be share screen.
Wait a minute. Chat. I don't see share screen on chat.
Oh.
Not on the phone.
Does it say more with like 3 dots?
More. Yeah, when more, it gives me chat, meeting settings, minimize meeting, virtual background. And we look at meeting settings again. I don't see anything saying share in the meeting settings.
Huh.
Share.
I don't know how to do it on
content. Here we go.
I don't know. I don't know how to do it on phone then.
Let me see. iCloud Drive. Let me see. What's this? I got something here. What's this? No.
Ben, are you still here? Can you help him?
Yeah, I'm here. What is it? He's trying to share a screen on his phone. I don't know how to do that.
No, how do you, if I was to play music straight into the Zoom room, I got share content right here, and I have iCloud Drive, screen, photos, iCloud Drive, website URL, bookmark.
Wow, you're really breaking up.
Am I breaking up?
He's fine for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you understand it, Dave?
I don't know working like Zoom or anything on my phone. I have no clue.
Right. Okay. Who's that, Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it.
Dave, do you teach at the new school?
Yeah, I do teach at the new school, but I didn't teach this semester.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have any students.
I got admitted, but I decided not to go because I wanted a better scholarship.
You got a better scholarship?
Yeah, well, I didn't get as much of a scholarship as I wanted to, so I didn't go, but I did get in. I'm gonna apply again next year. See what happens.
Right. Yeah. So okay. So where'd you go this semester? Did you go to school?
No, I didn't go anywhere.
Oh.
I didn't apply in too many places last year, but you know, I'm just trying to like go to jam sessions and stuff.
Right.
Experience and apply again.
So now you know. Did you audition at the new school?
Yeah, the audition didn't take place yet this year. They opened.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you didn't audition yet?
Well, I auditioned like last year for this year, and I got in, but again, I didn't get a good scholarship. So,
You didn't get a good. What did they offer you?
they gave me 18 grand a year.
18 grand. That's a little more than half the tuition.
But
Yeah, it's hard. You know, now to get a full ride at the new school, you have to be exceptional.
Yeah.
For drummers, because see the thing about the new school, they're giving full rides to what they consider endangered instruments. Now, if you play violin, trombone, you probably could get a full scholarship if you're exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they have a lot of drummers that audition, you know, for the new school. So the drums are not really considered an endangered instrument. But now if you come in and you play exceptional, you could get a pretty good scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
But you got a 50% scholarship, which is good.
Well, I only got 18,000 per year, not per semester. So it's not.
Oh, well, for the year. Well,
Yeah.
I'm saying a year is like 29,000, right?
No, that's a semester. It's like 50 a year.
50?
Yeah.
Yeah, dig that.
God. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh my God!
Yeah.
I thought it was 29,000 a year.
No, it's 29,000 for one semester, and there are 2 semesters a year.
That ain't gonna work for a jazz musician.
Man, how the hell you supposed to? If you take out a loan, that's 29. That's 50. That's over $50,000 a year times 4. That's like over $250,000, man.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So with the money I got, I would have still been like almost 180,000 in debt.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Oh man.
Yep.
Did you audition at Juilliard?
I didn't pass the pre-screen last year. I think I'm gonna be able to pass it this year though. I'm taking lessons with Billy Drummond at the moment.
Right. Okay.
So hopefully I could get some good advice from him.
How's your reading? Can you sight read well?
His reading is very good.
Mm-hmm. So do you know all the standard beats? You know all the different, like the Latin and the you know, the funk rhythms and all that, and the shuffles and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I got some advice back. I don't know if you know Aaron Flagg. I emailed him and asked him what I could do a little better on my audition this time, and he said it wasn't the. He said I could execute the instrument well, and I had good technique, but it was just my feel that I needed to work on. So that's why, again, I'm trying to play with more people and go to jam sessions and stuff. To get better.
Well, let me tell you, man. If you want to work on your feel, you need to play along with records.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been challenging myself recently to do nothing, like no matter what, but listen to music all day, like no matter what I'm doing.
But you should try to play along with like people like Philly Joe Jones.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Get like the Art Blakey and the Jazz Messenger records. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
you know,
and
Philly Joe Jones, and listen to a lot of Count Basie with Sonny Payne.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And learn those tunes.
Mm.
You know.
because a lot of those tunes have certain feels that you have to adapt to.
Yeah.
And while you're and then while you're practicing with those records, record yourself.
Yeah, I always record myself.
And listen back and see if your feel is measuring up to what you've been playing with.
Yeah.
You know, that's the best thing I can tell you, because playing along with records is the best thing, I think.
Maybe I could get some lessons with you. That would be cool.
You know? Well, yeah, you know, it's possible. We could do that. You have my phone number? You can call me up and talk about it.
Yeah, sure.
You have my number?
Yeah, I do have your number.
All right.
You do?
Yeah, I think I got it a couple of years ago.
Okay. You didn't call me.
What you waiting for?
Yeah, but I'm saying, but like, you know, because I remember when I first joined the Count Basie Orchestra, you know, when he told me I had the gig, and I started listening to all those Count Basie records and playing along with those records. This is when I was living in Philadelphia, and when I was living in the house, I had a basement, and I would go into the basement and spend 5, 6, 7 hours just playing along with all those records every day.
Yeah.
You know, and listening to Sonny Payne, man, trying to cop his feel.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So yeah, and that helped. It helped a lot. It helped me understand how to approach that music.
Mm.
You know, because when you play with a band like the Count Basie Orchestra, there's a certain style that you have to adhere to. And if you're playing jazz, it's also a certain style that you have to adhere to. And I think one of the drummers that I really admire is Philly Joe Jones.
Sure.
Yeah,
you know, Philly Joe Jones, man, he was so musical and so creative in what he played on the drums. Even the stuff he played with his left hand when he accompanied soloists. It was very, very different. All the musicians loved Philly Joe Jones. Miles Davis even said Philly Joe Jones was his favorite drummer.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, Philly Joe, man. If you get any Philly Joe Jones records and listen to those.
Yeah,
and then if you want to work on some technique, listen to Art Blakey. You know? And Buddy Rich. You know? And then if you want to understand a different style, turn your ears over to Max Roach.
Today I transcribed. I took a lesson with Ralph Peterson last week, and he told me to transcribe the Big Sid. So I transcribed that.
He said what?
I transcribed for Big Sid by Max Roach.
Oh, you transcribed it?
Yeah.
Now, can you play it? You wrote it out, but can you play it?
I've been practicing it for like 3 days. I can play it like 90% accuracy.
Because see, you know, like writing it out is one thing, right? That's cool. That's good for your writing skills and things like that. But you really should try to learn how to play it first, then write it out. You see, because then all you're doing is listening and listening and listening. Mm-hmm. And then after you really learn how to play it, then write it out. Mm-hmm. You see?
Yeah.
Because that's the best way, because, you know, see, you can write out something, but can you play it after you write it out? Mm-hmm. But if you can play it before you write it out, because, you know, when you're on the bandstand, you're not writing out anything, you're playing.
Right, yeah.
So that's the most important thing.
Okay. Being
able to play it. So that's why, I mean, even Branford Marcellus even says, like, you know, he hardly ever transcribed anything. All he did was listen to the records over and over again and learn how to play those solos from listening. You know, so, and I agree with that, because that's how I learned.
Yeah.
Just listen. And then after you listen enough, then if you want to write it out, you can, you know, to work on your writing skills and your transcribing skills. But to transcribe it before you learn how to play it, you know, because you spend so much time transcribing it, and then by the time you want to play, you're like, man, I'm just frustrated. But if you work on just playing it, you know, spend all the time working on playing it, and then
when you write, you'll be able to write it out even faster once you can play it, because then you can understand what you're playing. You understand what you're doing.
Right.
You know, so that's very important, I think.
Yeah.
Because music is an art. It's a art of listening. So
Yeah.
so that's what I think listening is the most important. So when you listen to stuff and learn how to play it from listening, because when you get in the bandstand being a drummer, most of your time you spend listening anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the other musicians while they're playing, accompanying the solos. You listen to what they're playing and you try to accompany what they're doing, and that takes a lot of listening.
Mm.
So yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, so you can transcribe Big Sid or the drum also waltzes and all that stuff, but being able to play them, because when you listen to Max Roach, he has a unique style of playing the drum. You notice that, right?
Yeah, well, I'm a Philly Joe guy, and I learned a lot of Joe licks and whatnot, and so I have a lot of that committed to muscle memory. But when I was running Max Roach, like, he just plays totally differently. Like all of his stuff, like it's hard to program into my muscle memory. Plays differently.
I'm sorry, say it again. Say it again. I missed it.
I was just saying, like I'm a big fan of Philly Joe, so a lot of like his styles, of a lot of his licks, I have in my muscle memory already. But when I was trying to learn Max Roach, it was very foreign to my muscle memory because he plays so differently, so uniquely.
Right. Okay. So what you do is you work all those guys out, right? And then you work on what Ben Fig's style is.
Yeah.
You have to work on your style,
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to make you different. That's going to make you unique from anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing is, like, you listen to those guys and you listen to their feel and you try to adopt those feels, but then you have to put your own spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to make you an exceptional drummer.
Yeah.
Along with practicing 7 to 8, 9, 10 hours a day.
Hey, Dave,
and I'm talking about, and that's literally.
Right. Did you know Coleridge Taylor Perkinson?
No. What's his name?
Coleridge Taylor Perkinson.
No, I didn't know him. No.
Okay. Well, he did a lot of jazz things, but he was essentially a classical composer.
Oh, okay.
He's passed away since then, but African American. He's one of the foremost African American composers out there.
Wow.
But he was a really good friend of mine, and but he's had been in the jazz world all over the place. But he wrote a classical piece for orchestra in honor of Max Roach.
Wow.
And he called it Mop Mop.
Mop Mop.
Mop Mop. Yep.
Right.
That's Max.
So do you have the music for that?
I have a score. Yeah, it's a full orchestra score.
Has it been recorded?
I think he may have recorded it. Yeah. Although I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Right.
He's
like
performed it live, and some orchestras have done it.
Right.
I mean, he's in like the lexicon of classical composers on the in the diaspora.
Coleridge Taylor Perkinson.
Yep, Perkinson.
Right. I gotta look him up.
I used to call him Perk.
Yeah. Now, how old was he when he passed away?
Oh, he had to be 75, maybe.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. He was Diane Carroll's music director way back in the day.
Wow.
He did several recordings with Deo.
Oh, Harry Belafonte.
Harry Belafonte. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Let me. I'm looking. Let me see. Let me look on the computer here.
Go for it.
Yeah. Coleridge Taylor Perkinson.
Right.
Cole. How you COLERIDGE?
Yes.
Coleridge. Oh, here he is.
I think
Coleridge.
He was named after the Coleridge Taylor, or the.
Okay. Yeah, I see him here. Yeah, I see the Wikipedia information.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, he what's this
He ended
He
up
must
late
have-
in his life. He taught at Columbia College in Chicago.
Oh, wow. Let me see. I think he born 1932 and died March 9th, 2004. Wait a minute. His name-
Died when?
2004?
That's probably right.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I got to read about him. So he was a
Yeah.
friend of yours, huh?
He was a dear friend of mine for many,
Wow.
many years.
Wow.
And I did a lot of his editing for his orchestra pieces.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, he died in Chicago, right? I see it.
Yeah.
He was born in New York, Manhattan.
Yep.
Died in Chicago. So where was he living? So when you were hanging out with him, was he living still in New York?
I was in New York. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right.
He basically took that teaching gig at pretty much the end of his life. I think he was only there for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years.
Oh, in Chicago.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
But
Yeah, he was 71.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Mm-mm-mm.
It was really, you know Barry Harris.
Yeah.
He used to conduct Barry's big orchestra things that he used to do.
Oh, really?
Remember he used to do it at Symphony Space.
Right.
So he was always Barry's conductor. When he died, I became Barry's conductor. And
Oh,
then,
okay.
And then Barry stopped doing them because they got too expensive.
Yeah. Damn. This guy looks familiar. I might have met him.
You probably did.
I think I met him before. He looks familiar.
He wrote some movie scores also.
Mm-hmm.
Sidney Poitier, a couple of movies for Sidney.
Right. Wow.
And back at the time, it's kind of tragic. I mean, at the time he was living high on the land because all the movie money was coming in.
Yeah.
I think he ended up driving a Porsche off a cliff somewhere.
Oh, wow.
And survived, but
really,
he had some fancy sports car, some really expensive sports car he just totaled. And then Diane Carroll and all, good, really illustrious career, but always had issues,
Yeah. Was he bipolar?
I think it was more substance issues.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I know that road. Been down that road before.
Yeah, until later in life, and he did, clean that up.
Yeah,
was doing great, and then got colon cancer or something, and they just wiped.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's a shame.
Mm-mm-mm. So who's on? Ben, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. Cool.
I'm curious.
So Ben, how old are you now, Ben?
I'm gonna be 17 in summer.
Are you going to be 17?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's ahead of the game.
Yeah, I graduated a year early. Or I'm graduating a year early. So.
Oh, all right. So you're only 17. So you're going to be 17 or you're just 16 now?
I'm 16 now, yeah.
Right. Okay, yeah. So last year you were about 15, huh? When I heard you?
Yeah, I think I just turned 16.
At the party?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, yeah. Yeah, man. So who are you studying with now?
Well, I've been studying mainly with Alvester Garnett for a while, and I've been taking online lessons with Ralph Pearson and George Young.
Are you going to you study with Alvester privately, or you going to the NJ Pack?
I'm going to NJ Pack, and I get private lessons with him through there.
All right. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I study with him once a week.
Once a week?
Yeah.
Okay, great. You go to his house?
No, well, I do it through NJ Pack, so I usually just get it through that program. I've never been to his house or anything, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, we used to come down to Red Bank sometimes.
He would come to Red Bank.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool, man. Okay, so I thought you were a little older.
Yeah, so I'm a little ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Hey, I found Mop Mop.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah. So he's on. There's a bunch of
On
his
YouTube?
stuff. There's a bunch of his stuff on Spotify.
Oh, really?
Here, watch. I'll play a little bit of it.
All
Check
right.
this out. I got to share my sound. Stand by.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you hear that?
Whoa. Yeah. Woo! You know, that sounds like Max Roach.
Yep. Biggly boop, bop, boop, bap.
Yeah.
Anyway, it goes on for like 7, 8 minutes. Like
I have to get that.
You can check that out.
I have Spotify. I must download that.
Yeah. Here's something he did for violin. This is a blues form, and I think Allen was the soloist. Sanford Allen, do you know that name?
No.
So he like bridged over that gap, you know.
Wow.
In classical and the blues.
Yes.
Very
Blues,
cool.
yeah.
There's like dozens of stuff of his if you
Wow.
look for Spotify.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. Hey Joe, I'm gonna have to run, man.
Yeah, me too. I need some shut eye.
All right, hey Ben.
Hey, it was good seeing you. Thanks for the.
All right, Ben. Yeah, man. Good to see you.
Likewise.
All right, Joe. Thanks, man.
All right, thank you, man. Good to see you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
All right, peace.